Hello, hello, hello. Check. Hello. Check. One, two, three. Hello. Hello. Check. Hello, hello. Check. One, two, three. Hello. Hello. My testing. Hello, hello. Check. One, two, three. Hello. Hello. My testing. Hello, hello. Check. My testing. One, two, three. Hello. Hello. Check. Hello, hello, hello. Hello, 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 hello. Hello, 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 check, check.
Good evening, all of you. Yes, good evening to the online students as well. Fine, so today we will be taking up the IR discussion as far as prelims is concerned. From prelims perspective, we will be discussing IR. And of course, in prelims, when it comes to IR, current affairs becomes important. Yes. Generally, when we are studying international relations, what are we focusing on? Primarily, it is the bilateral or regional ties yes, and then we do study certain regional organizations and international organizations. Yes, and when we are studying IR, generally we study it, generally speaking, it is more from mains perspective. Why I use this word mains perspective? Because there's a lot of emphasis on analysis. Yes, interlinkages of the ties. So what is, say, how India's relation with US has evolved so as to counterbalance China. Yes, how are we cooperating with Japan so as to counterbalance China? Yes, how Russia is becoming a factor when it comes to, say, India-US relations or India-EU relations. Fine, so that is generally the perspective. I do see some of the familiar faces, but I would like to repeat, when it comes to prelims, what are the areas that we should focus upon? Yes, a general doubt that students have when it comes to international relations is, when it comes to prelims, how do we cover IR? Because majority of the notes that you have, majority of the concepts that you would have studied is about the bilateral ties. So there is a brief history, there is an analysis, there are different factors, how it affects the relations, all that, apart from some reference to, say, international organization and regional organizations. So when it comes to prelims, over the past few years, and especially last 2 years, we see a trend in UPSC whereby they of course prioritize questions on international organizations or regional organizations. Yes, so they have been prioritizing questions around them. And when it comes to international or regional organization, the question would be about membership, would be about important summits, declarations, etc. Yes, and I always say the way to remember membership, you have number of organization. One of the ways to remember membership is by remembering, by being very particularly clear about which countries who seem to be member of an organization are not its members. Yes, so when we talk about, say, Gulf Cooperation Council, yes, a tendency is Gulf. So which is the Gulf area that we are focusing on? Probably the Persian Gulf. So when we ask, when a question is put forward in the exam, which are the member countries of GCC, and one of the option is Iran, students tend to get confused. You think that yes, there is a great possibility that Iran will be one of the members of GCC. But we have to be very cautious that in fact Iran is not a member of GCC. Yes, when we are studying about, say, Indian Ocean Rim Association. So Indian Ocean country, Pakistan shares a long Indian Ocean coast, so a tendency would be to think maybe Pakistan is a member. Maybe you'll think that okay, India has adversarial relations with Pakistan, so okay, maybe Pakistan might not be a member. But when it comes to Myanmar, once again, a country with a long Indian Ocean coastline, yes, So you have to be clear, the countries, these two countries are not member of IORA, though they seem to be member of IORA. In fact, if you have studied BRI, Belt Road Initiative of China, China has flagship programs known as CPEC, China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, which focuses on the Gwadar port, which is an Indian Ocean port. Yes, Myanmar ke साथ भी China-Myanmar Economic Corridor. Both these countries, which are actually not a member of IORA, are part of China's flagship initiative BRI because they have a long coast on the Indian Ocean. Yes, why CMEC and CPEC have been launched by China? Because it wants to have alternative route of access into the Indian Ocean via the Gwadar port and Kyaukphyu port. Yes, so we have to be clear. That is how you remain clear with respect to membership. Otherwise, previously elimination techniques used to work beautifully. Now at times with last year, how they have put forward the options, only 1, only 2, only 3. At times the elimination technique might not work, but it is still a good way to remember countries which seemingly are member of a particular organization. When they are not member, you have to be particularly cautious. You have to remember that yes, this country should have been, seemingly should have been, but is not. Yes, apart from it, some important summits, the important declarations, yes, both for international organization as well as regional organization. The second area from which UPSC tends to ask questions in prelims is disputed territories. So if there is a dispute over a certain territory, for example, Senkaku was asked, I think so last year or last to last year. Yes, Senkaku Islands happens to be disputed between Japan and China. Russia के साथ दूसरा island है, that is Kuril Islands. Yes, recently Kachhathivu has been in news on and off this year. Kachhathivu Islet has been in news on and off this year. Yes, it is disputed between India and Sri Lanka. Yes, so you will have to remember such territories which happens to be disputed. Golan Heights, and we will refer to those regions which have already been asked in the question exam as such, or which are disputed as such. Yes, fine. Also, they tend to ask questions with respect to places in news, and the country to which they belong has to be matched correctly. Yes, so several such questions. Last year they had, but over the years they have been asking these questions regularly. One question which I can remember is with respect to Kherson and Zaporizhia. Yes, these two regions were in news and they are part of Ukraine, which have been annexed by Russia. Yes, they have asked questions on this in Myanmar. There is this state known as Kachin state. Yes, so this state generally on and off remains in news because very prone to insurgency. On it, to which country does it actually belong? Yes, such questions they tend to ask. Yes, so places in news and match them with the countries. And these places in news are generally in news because of international developments. Yes, then another question would be why certain countries or regions have been in news. So because of some military coup, because of certain famine. Yes, recently Rafah, yes, in the Gaza Strip has been in news. Yes, so you can expect a question. Rafah belongs to which country, which region, which territory, occupied Palestine, Gaza Strip or something. Yes, this port Odessa in Ukraine has been in news. Yes, so whenever such places are in news and quite often in news, repeatedly in news, UPSC tends to ask a question on it and asks them in match the following format. Yes, so if you have been reading your newspapers thoroughly over the past 1 year, you would be in a position. Yes, you would be in a position to answer those questions. Only those who cannot answer those questions are students who have not been regularly reading the newspapers or have actually not been thorough with their current affairs. If you have been thorough, you will be in a position. We'll try and bring those cities and places, whatever is in news, into our discussion as much as possible. Yes, fine. So these are areas, and one another area on which they ask question is volatile regions or countries, and they ask question with respect to their neighboring countries. Yes, for example, with respect to Afghanistan, they have asked which are the bordering countries of Afghanistan. Yes, with respect to Ukraine, they have asked a question. Ukraine, surrounding countries of Ukraine, they have asked a question. Fine, so Ukraine is one such. Yes, once Caspian Sea was in use, so the littoral countries of Caspian Sea. Yes, all such. For example, now Black Sea has been in use. So, which are the surrounding littoral countries of Black Sea? Yes, such questions can be expected. Fine. So, these are certain areas from which UPSC tends to ask prelims question when it comes to international relations. So, when we are preparing for IR from prelims perspective, we have to keep our minds open to keep looking at these areas from where we might expect questions. Yes, we cannot go about anything and everything, but yes, we can, of course, we can focus on these particular areas when we are revising, when we are spending time on international relations as part of our prelims preparation. Fine. Fine. So this is a brief introduction with respect to international relations and the areas from which we can expect question in prelims. Now let us start with the material that we have. All of you have got access to the material? Yes? So we'll be starting with international organizations. Yes, so multilateral organizations or international organizations. What do we mean by multilateral organizations? Yes, multiple countries are members to it. Yes, therefore they are referred to as multilateral organization. Otherwise there is unilateralism. You understand what do we mean by unilateralism? Unilateralism is basically action taken by one country. Bilateralism, two countries are involved in signing an agreement or any sort of cooperation. Then there is trilateral grouping. है ना, trilateralism जहाँ पे 3 members होते हैं, 3 countries cooperating and coordinating. There is something known as plurilateral organization. I always say it means few countries, and multilateral means many countries. So Quad is an example, very common grouping. Quadrilateral security dialogue is an example of a plurilateral grouping. ठीक है, plurilateralism. Now we really don't know exactly what UPSC is going to ask, but these are some simple terms and terminologies that you should be aware, because they tend to ask such simple questions as well at times. Yes, anyways, so basically the first organization that we are going to focus is on UN. Yes, UN, when it comes to when it comes to UN, there is this concept known as UN system or UN family. Yes, UN, I would want you to keep jotting down. Yes, as we discuss, it would be better if you keep jotting down. So UN system or UN family comprises the UN, or it is also known as United Nations Organization. Then there are special funds and programs, and then there is something known as specialized agencies. The UN or UNO comprises, UN comprises how many organs? 6 organs. It comprises 6 principal organs, which are UN General Assembly, UN Security Council, International Court of Justice, Trusteeship Council, yes, ECOSOC, Economic and Social Council, and UN Secretariat. Yes, these are the 6 UN organs. So if somebody in the exam says, the question in the exam reads UN comprises, and then you have options given. So UN comprises its 6 organs. Yes, but if a question is the UN family comprises not just the UN and its 6 organs, but also special funds and programs and specialized agencies. That you have to be clear with. Yes, so you have UN, which comprises these 6 organs. All the 6 organs have their headquarters except ICJ in New York. Yes, in New York, USA, all of them are headquartered except ICJ. ICJ is headquartered where? It is in, yes, Peace Palace. There is a building in the city of Hague, Netherlands. Yes. Then you have something known as special funds and programs. They are created or they are established through resolution of UN General Assembly, and their actions are coordinated by ECOSOC, UN Economic and Social Council. They are established through UN General Assembly resolution. Yes, and the actions are coordinated through ECOSOC. And there are 6 special funds and programs. These are UNDP, UN Development Program, UNEP, Environment Program, UN Population Fund, World Food Program, then you have UN Habitat, and UNICEF. These are the 6 special funds and programs under UN family or UN system. Fine. Then we have something known as specialized agencies. They are 16 in number. Yes, 16 specialized agencies. These are basically independent agencies or independent organizations who have chosen to coordinate their function with goal of UN. Who have chosen to coordinate their functions to the goal of UN. Yes, some of the specialized agencies, example is IMF, World Bank, you have Food and Agricultural Organization, International Civil Aviation Organization, International Civil Aviation Organization, Food and Agricultural Organization, ILO, International Telecommunication Union, yes, UNESCO, etc. Yes, fine. So this is what comprises UN family. Now as far as UN and its six organs are concerned, the funding is assessed. The nature of funding is said to be assessed. That means there is a predetermined membership fee that has to be paid by the member countries. A predetermined, UN determines the membership fee that has to be paid by the member countries. Then you have special funds and programs. The funding is voluntary in nature. Funding is voluntary in nature. So the member countries on their own will decide how much they want to contribute to the funds and programs. And as far as specialized agencies is concerned, the funding is each to its own. So some organizations such as say IMF and World Bank are based on assessed funding. On the other hand, UNESCO is voluntary funding. So some can be voluntary funded in nature, others are based on assessed funding. Fine. Yes, sir. When was UN as such established? Yes, it was established on 24th October 1945. What is the aim of UN? What is the aim of UN? Yes, first is global peace and security. It is to promote friendly relations among countries. Friendly relations amongst countries. Yes. The preamble to the UN Charter, the preamble to UN Charter says that the aim of UN is to save successive generations from scourge of war. Is to save successive generations from the scourge of war. So this was the first function in terms of global peace and security. Is it the only function that UN performs? No, there are other functions as well. So UN says that the other function is to protect human rights, and third is to promote development. In fact, though this is the primary function, global peace and security, is the primary function. It is to ensure global peace and security that UN came into being. Yes, UN was formed in context of World War II. So primary aim of UN was to ensure global peace and security. But majority of its resources are in fact spent on promotion of development. Yes, therefore ECOSOC, UN ECOSOC, Economic and Social Council, is an overburdened organ of UN. Yes, it is overburdened with a lot of functions. Majority of the resources, majority of the time of UN is actually spent to promote development. Yes, but recently you find in context of Israel Hamas conflict, and also in context of Russia Ukraine war, a lot of questions have been raised on the ability of UN to promote global peace and security. Legitimacy of UN has been questioned. Yes, in fact, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres himself has said that the relevance of UN to global peace and security is being questioned, is at stake. Its legitimacy is at stake because of the gross humanitarian crisis unfolding in Gaza or occupied Palestinian territory. Yes, so it is in this context that once again UN was in news. In fact, the UN Secretary General has invoked Article 99 of the UN Charter. Yes, this is a very important article in the UN Charter which gives the Secretary General discretionary power, a sort of discretionary power to call attention of UNSC to the gross humanitarian crisis unfolding in the world. Yes, it is like a discretionary power given to the UN Secretary General to call attention of UNSC, on any matter which in his opinion may threaten maintenance of international peace and security. Yes. So in context of Israel-Hamas conflict, in context of this recent Israel-Hamas conflict, since when has the Israel-Hamas war been going on? Yes, since October, 7th of October में हमास ने अटैक किया, 8th October Israel responded. Yes, so you find that since October this war has been going on. Yes, I think so students have a problem with the color of the pencil. Yes, so you find that since October 2023 this war has been going on, and it was recently, few months back, that the Secretary General had to invoke Article 99, and through this article, which imparts the Secretary General with discretionary power whereby he can call the attention of UNSC if he feels that UNSC is not able to respond to the gross humanitarian crisis, a threat to global peace and security unfolding in the world anywhere. And this article has been invoked in the past only on 4 occasions. Yes, so 4 occasions kya the? It was in 1960, there was crisis unfolding in Congo. In 1971, during Bangladesh's liberation war. Yes, during Bangladesh's liberation war, where there was a fear that this war will spread to the entire South Asian subcontinent. Yes, in 1979, during Iranian Revolution, is the color Iranian Revolution. Yes, the Islamic revolution that took place in Iran. Yes, through which Iran transformed from a secular country into a theocratic state. Yes, 1979 during Iranian Revolution, and 1989 during Lebanon's War of Independence or War of Liberation. Yes, so only 4 times has this article been invoked. The 5th time has been in context of Israel-Hamas conflict. Yes, because you find that UNSC has stood paralyzed in context of this Israel-Hamas conflict. है ना. अच्छा, UN Secretary General का क्या opinion है with respect to Israel-Hamas conflict? What is his stand on this conflict? Two-state solution is the generally agreed solution. No, he has, just like India, he also condemns the terrorist attack by Hamas on 7th October. Yes, which resulted in killing of 1200 Israeli men and women. But beyond that, Israeli response has been grossly disproportionate, and majority of its victims have been children and women. And it is in this context, this is his response. Yes, as such he has condemned the terrorist attack by Hamas, but then he has also been cautious about the humanitarian crisis unfolding in occupied Palestine. Okay, in the Gaza Strip, and of course the international community today supports two-state solution. US also supports two-state solution. India has been an ardent supporter of two-state solution. Fine. And he has called the attention, he has tried to call the attention of UNSC through use of Article 99 of the UN Charter. Now, why did he need to call the attention? He needed to call the attention because whenever resolutions have been brought about in UN or in UNSC, it has been vetoed by US. Initially, UK was also supporting, UK would also veto along with US any such resolution. So we find generally in most of these crises, the situation was that UNSC stood paralyzed. Yes, UNSC, one of the reasons why paralysis of UNSC or deadlock in UNSC has generally speaking prevented a more appropriate global response to the unfolding Israel-Hamas conflict. And what is the reason for paralysis of UNSC? Yes, this P2 versus P3 divide. Yes, there are 5 permanent members of UNSC. UPSC has asked a question previously in prelims. The 5 permanent members of UNSC, and you just had to identify which are the 5 permanent members of UNSC. So I say they ask such simple questions, but at times in the exam we get confused. Yes, so these are not the kind of questions we should get confused upon. But anyways, which are now P2 versus P3. So China, Russia on one side, and US, UK and France on the other side. Yes, as such, what is the membership of UNSC? P5 plus 10 non-permanent members. When was the non-permanent membership made into 10 countries? In 1965. Yes, through a amendment to the UN Charter, the non-permanent membership was increased from 6 countries into 10 countries. And these members are elected for 2 years tenure. And half of them, that means 5 non-permanent members, retire every year and 5 new are elected. Yes, fine. And the P5 countries as such has veto power, which is not given to the non-permanent members. And as far as presidency of UNSC is concerned, it rotates amongst the 15 members based on alphabetic order of their names every month. So the presidency remains only for 1 month with a member country of UNSC. Yes, ठीक है, एक ही महीने के लिए, because otherwise the non-permanent members who are just elected for 2 years term, they will never stand a chance of becoming the president of UNSC. So in UNSC, the presidency rotates every month based on alphabetic order of the names of the member countries. Fine. So some information on it. Fine. So this is with respect to UN. You will look into the flagship reports. Yes, this is also one area from which UPSC tends to ask questions. So please look into the reports as well as some important UN treaties. So in the right of human rights, which are the treaties? Yes, crime of genocide, convention on genocide was also in news. Yes, previously. Refugee pay, you have these 2 conventions. Then penal matters, Rome Statute of International Criminal Court has been in news because of Russia-Ukraine war, and a warrant issued by International Criminal Court against Putin on the alleged war crimes committed by him. Yes. Fine. Then on terrorism, you have few protocols, a few conventions. You have UNCLOS. The Treaty of UNCLOS is very, very important. United Nations Convention on Laws of Seas. So it divides the water to which a nation state has access to into 5 domains, and internal water, territorial water, EEZ, extended continental shelf, है ना, ऐसे करके ये 5 जोन में डिवाइड करते हैं. तो मे बी इन ज्योग्राफी यू वुड हैव कवर्ड इट, अदरवाइज यू लुक इनटू इट. UNCLOS is generally very, very important. And CTBT, Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty, has also been in news. Yes, so this treaty is also very, very important. Otherwise, the important treaties with respect to disarmament, nuclear disarmament, एक तो है NPT, Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. On and off it remains in the news. It is the only treaty, yes, on say nuclear disarmament which is binding on nuclear weapon states, and it has entered into force. CTBT, the draft has been adopted but it has not entered into force. Yes, The other treaty is FMCT, and then there is nuclear weapon ban treaty, which is the newest treaty. This has also entered into force. ठीक है, तो दो ही treaty हैं जो entered into force हैं, एक NPT है, एक nuclear weapon ban treaty है. Yes. Apart from it, FMCT and CTBT have not entered into force. This यहाँ पे at least draft has been adopted. Yes, but when you find with respect to FMCT, the draft has yet not been adopted. FMCT stands for Fissile Material Cutoff Treaty. ये सारे treaties are important from prelims perspective. Yes. Fine. Next body that we are looking into is UNESCO, United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization. Yes. Why it has been used? Because US has finally rejoined UNESCO after a 5 years gap. Yes. US has had a very troubled history when it comes to UNESCO. Yes. So many a times they have left. This is the second time that they had left UNESCO, and now they once again decided to rejoin. Yes. One of the times when they decided to leave UNESCO was when UNESCO admitted Palestine as a member country. So in an act of protest that UNESCO has given admission to Palestine as a full member country, US decided to leave the organization. Initially it suspended paying the financial contributions, and later on decided to leave the organization, but now they have decided once again to rejoin this organization. Yes, as far as UNESCO is concerned, we have just seen it is a specialized agency of UN. It has its headquarters in Paris, France. Yes, it was established in 1945 to contribute to peace and security by promoting international cooperation in education, sciences, culture, communication and information. Member countries 194 countries and 12 associate members. Now as far as 194 countries is concerned, I told you one of the member country is Palestine. Yes, in fact UN के कितने member countries हैं? 193. South Sudan was the latest country to join it. Now there are 193 member countries of UN and 194 member countries of UNESCO. So you find that in fact 2 member states of UN are not part of UNESCO. One is Israel, the other is Liechtenstein. Yes, Liechtenstein, Israel आप इस तरह से भी याद रख सकते हो कि since Palestine को membership दे दिया गया है ना, so you can remember that way. Yes, and Liechtenstein is not a member, and it is a European nation. In fact, it is a doubly landlocked country. In fact, in the world there are only 2 doubly landlocked countries. One is Uzbekistan, the other is Liechtenstein, yes, which is a European nation. You find that 3 UNESCO member states which are not UN members, Cook Island, New, ये दोनों Pacific Island nations है, ठीक है, Pacific Island nations है, the Cook Islands and New, and you have Palestine. As I told you, in 2011 in fact it was given full membership. 2011 or 12 it was given full membership of UNESCO. 2011 itself it was given full membership of UNESCO. Fine, its composition is a secretariat headed by Director General, implements decisions of General Conference. ये कोई नहीं पूछ रहा composition. Yes, awards, you can just know these awards. अगर पूछा तो you are aware, है ना? Questions on awards or say the composition of UNESCO, less likely, but we can never rule out things. So maybe just go through them. Whenever you are reading, go through it. Reports by UNESCO would be important. So know these reports that UNESCO publishes. Yes, and what are the aim of UNESCO? एक बार पढ़ लेना. They would be similar. Logically उनको याद करना है ना, रटने की ज़रूरत नहीं है. Logically if you can understand and know them. But remember Palestine. What is the status of Palestine in UN? It is a non-member observer state. Yes, in 2011 it became a member of UNESCO, and in 2012 it was given non-member observer state status in UN. There are key achievements with respect to World Heritage Sites, with respect to Intangible Heritage Conventions. Yes, Education for All initiative, Media Development Indicators, a separate list of World Heritages in danger is maintained by World Heritage Committee. Asia Pacific Institute for Broadcasting Development, देखो ये factual है, but fine, since India has been re-elected as the president for third successive term, so maybe we can just know Asia Pacific Institute for Broadcasting Development. It is headquartered in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, and it was established in 1977. Yes, in fact it has been established by UNESCO, ITU and UNDP. ये तीन है उसके फाउंडिंग ऑर्गेनाइजेशन. जैसे फाउंडिंग मेंबर कंट्रीज होते हैं वैसे these organizations came together to establish Asia Pacific Institute for Broadcasting Development. There are 26 government member countries including India. Function क्या है? To establish inter-regional links and cooperation. Another very important body, intergovernmental body under UN happens to be UNHRC. Yes, so it is under UN. There is this intergovernmental body known as UNHRC, on and off, always in the news. Yes, so UNHRC, why it was in news? UNHRC is one topic that you should be little thorough with. Yes. Yes, you should know the basic information with respect to UNHRC. So UNHRC as such is an intergovernmental body, yes, within the UN system, and it is made up of, or it comprises 47 member countries who are responsible for promotion and protection of human rights around the world. Yes, and they have the ability to discuss all thematic issues. Thematic issues मतलब क्या है? Women rights, children's right, yes, right of old age population, right of people with disabilities or special needs. Yes, so any such thematic issue they can discuss, and they meet at the UN office in Geneva. As far as membership is concerned, as I told you, it is made up of 47 member countries who are elected by majority of the members of UN General Assembly. Now, ये कुछ factual है, but it is important. You should, I think so, know UNHRC. So they are elected by majority of the members of UN General Assembly through direct and secret ballot. The General Assembly will take into account the candidate states' contribution for promotion and protection of human rights, as well as their voluntary pledges and commitments in this regard. ठीक है, और जो ये 47 member countries, they are elected on the basis of equitable geographical distribution. है ना. इनफैक्ट इकोसॉक के भी जो मेंबर कंट्रीज होते हैं वो इक्विटेबल जोग्राफिकल डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन इज द क्राइटेरिया. सो अंडर UN you find that countries around the world are classified into these 5 groups: African states, Asia Pacific states, Latin America and Caribbean states, Western European and other states, and Eastern European states. तो ये 5 कैटेगरी में दुनिया की हर कंट्री इज डिवाइडेड, एंड एज फार एज द काउंसिल इज कंसर्न दिस इज द डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन ऑफ membership seats amongst the countries of different regions. Then the members serve a period of 3 years. They can be elected for 2 consecutive terms but not 3rd consecutive term. Rotating membership of the council gives the council legitimacy. Yes, and the General Assembly may vote to suspend a membership in case of gross or systematic violations of human rights. Recently, Russia's membership of UNHRC has been suspended because of gross violation of human rights. Then the presidency and bureau, the bureau of the council consists of 5 individuals. One is the president and 4 vice president, which represent the 5 regional groups, and they serve for 1 year. Then the different mechanisms, in this the different mechanisms, universal periodic review is particularly important. You should all know universal periodic review. A standalone question has been previously asked and can be asked on universal periodic review of UNHRC. Yes. Now UNHRC basically consists of these different mechanisms which have been established through the institution building package through a resolution 5-1 of 2007. Yes, and what are these mechanisms? One is universal periodic review. What is universal periodic review? It is a peer review, yes, of human right situation, of human right record of the member countries of UN. So every 4.5 years, all the member countries human right record, you know, all the member countries of UN's human rights record is peer reviewed. Peer reviewed मतलब दूसरी countries review करेंगी. Yes, 3 rounds have been completed. The 4th round is ongoing. Yes. So you have something known as universal periodic review. Then there are special procedures. They are individuals or groups not employed by, who are not provided employment by the UN, who speak out on themes such as education, health, free speech. Yes, on situation in countries like Ukraine, North Korea, Eritrea, Iran, etc. Then there is something known as advisory committee, which serves as the council's think tank, providing it with expertise and advice on thematic human rights issues. Then there is complaint procedure, which allows people and organization to bring human rights violation to the attention of human rights councils. There are other mechanisms as well. As I told you, this is particularly important. So this is what I have mentioned, what I just told you, that it is a peer review of human rights record of all the member countries of UN conducted every 4.5 years. 3 reviews have been completed. 4th review is ongoing. It began in November 2022. Yes, and a report provides an opportunity to improve human rights record, receive recommendation from multiple stakeholders. There is also this office of United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights. So what is this office of United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights? It is nothing but a department of the UN Secretariat. Yes, that works to protect and promote human rights around the world. Yes, as human rights as guaranteed under Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and it was established in December 1993 in wake of the World Conference on Human Rights in 1993 itself. ठीक है, और यही है ना, you find that the office is headed by the High Commissioner for Human Rights, who coordinates human rights activities throughout the UN system and acts as a secretariat of Human Rights Council in Geneva, Switzerland. है ना, यही secretariat के तरह act करता है for UNHRC. Fine. So this is with respect to UNHRC. Yes, Russia was ousted from UNHRC after it invaded Ukraine. It was seeking to rejoin it, but its bid was rejected. And in fact, इनका भी क्या है, टेन्योर क्या है, UNHRC का membership कितने, 47 countries, each member elected for 3 years term, and every year 1/3 of the members retire and 1/3 new members are elected. तो वही है उसी context में. So I have discussed all this. Institutional structure also we have discussed. The decision of the council, however, are not legally binding. Yes. Then you also have the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and 2023 is the 75th anniversary of Universal Declaration of Human Rights. This Human Rights 75 initiative was launched, whose 3 primary goals are to focus on universality, progress and engagement. In this context, you can remember how there is gross human rights violation. With establishment of UN, has human rights getting more protected over the years, or there is increasing violation of human rights around the world? क्या हो रहा है? UN का aim है to protect human rights, but since its establishment, what is the world record saying? Has human rights violation increased or decreased? Increased. Over the years it has only increased. And in this context you always need to remember the Rohingya issue. ठीक है, अभी I think so today's newspaper Rohingya, or maybe 2-3 days back there was mention of Rohingya issue. Yes, yes. How Rohingyas, the refugees, है ना, who are Rohingyas? They are ethnic and religious minority who lived in the Rakhine state of Myanmar. Yes, and they have, because of repeated persecution, state-led persecution, they have fled the Rakhine state. And now you find that nearly 1 million Rohingyas have found refuge in Bangladesh. उसके अलावा भी नेबरिंग कंट्रीज़ में है, इंडोनेशिया, इंडिया में भी है, थाईलैंड में भी है, बट majority of them are in Bangladesh. Yes, and now what is happening? Because the situation even in the Bangladeshi refugee camps has become so desperate that these refugees who have been seeking refuge in Bangladesh refugee camps are coming out of Bangladesh and taking arduous journey to countries like Indonesia. Yes, so it is in this context it was in news, but Rohingya issue will be important. They have been denied citizenship in Myanmar based on their 1982 citizenship law, which gave citizenship to more than 130 ethnic groups in Myanmar. Yes, Myanmar government believes that Rohingyas do not originally belong to Myanmar. They moved to Myanmar because during the British rule. Yes, however, Rohingyas believe that they have lived there for generation, and so they presently represent the largest group of stateless people. Yes, so with respect to Rohingyas, and of course in Palestine there is a gross human rights violation. Famine, है ना, a man-made famine is quite imminent in Gaza. Fine. Fine. So this is, you can read through, ये factual है. Yes, UDHR along with International Covenant on Civil and Political Right and International Covenant on Economic, Social and Cultural Right make up the International Bill of Rights. तो ये एक point important है. International Bill of Rights comprises 3 documents. You have UDHR, then ICC PR, and you have ICESCR. Fine. And go through कि human rights का मतलब क्या है. अच्छा, how do you define human rights? Rights which have been bestowed on all human beings, irrespective of the place you come from, irrespective of your religion, sex, gender, class, creed, color, yes, irrespective of any differentiation that we make, just by the virtue of us being human beings, we have certain rights which have been given to us by nature. है ना. तो human right, state is not giving us human right. State is the custodian of human right. But human rights are natural rights. They have been bestowed on all human beings by the virtue of being humans. Yes, so that is the idea. It is in this context you can yes, you can know these few names: Hansa Mehta, है ना, M.R. Masani and Lakshmi Menon. And Hansa Mehta played an important role for altering this, है ना, all men are born free and equal to all humans. Yeah, all human beings are born free and equal, as in Article 1 of UDHR. Fine. Then there is also Vienna Declaration and Program of Action. Factual है, आप इसको पढ़ लेना. Then there is something known as UN peacekeeping. Yes, UN peacekeeping is a very, very important mechanism under UN, which in fact has ensured that UN remains relevant as far as global peace and security is concerned. Primary reason why UN was created is to protect and promote global security, global peace. लेकिन क्या हुआ? Because of the deadlock, yes, because of the deadlock in UNSC, UN could not undertake what is known as collective security actions. And this is the highest mechanism available to UN, whereby UN collective security का मतलब क्या है? Yes, it is based on the theme one for all and all for one. So if there is attack on one country, all countries will come together to punish the aggressor, because the aggressor has disturbed global peace and security. Now, who was to operationalize collective action according to the UN Charter? The only organ which can operationalize collective action is UNSC. But UNSC has been in a state of deadlock since the formation of UN. UN जैसे ही फॉर्म हुआ 1945 also we trace the official beginning of Cold War, है ना. तो इस वजह से UN has or UNSC has always been in this state of deadlock. So it is in this context they could not really take or operationalize collective security action as early as say the Korean conflict, जो कोरियन पेनिनसुला में हुआ, वहाँ पे भी डेडलॉक था. So it is in this context an innovation came into being, and this innovation is known as UN peacekeeping operations. And through UN peacekeeping operations, UN's relevance to collective or UN's relevance to global peace and security has been ensured. ठीक है. अभी UN peacekeeping versus collective security में क्या difference है? What is the difference? Yes, लेकिन nature में क्या difference है पहले? Yes. aggression versus mitigation. Fine. What else? नहीं होती, ज़रूरी नहीं है कि उन कंट्रीज़ की खुद की फोर्सेस इन्वॉल्व होंगी. Yes, should we pass the mic so that the online students can hear?
To ensure ceasefire.
Sorry?
To ensure ceasefire between the warring countries.
Yes, as far as peacekeeping operations is concerned, you find there is ceasefire that is enforced. Yes? What else?
Collective security is to punish the aggressor, whereas peacekeeping is for maintenance of law and order.
Yes. What else? Yes, what they are saying is correct. As far as collective security is concerned, the aim is to take punitive action. To take punitive action against aggressor. Punish the aggressor. है ना, military action लेंगे aggressor के against. Yes. However, when it comes to peacekeeping, the objective, the aim is to ensure ceasefire. Yes, the aim is to ensure an immediate end. The aim is to ensure an immediate end. Aim is immediate end to hostilities. Yes, so they are not about identifying who's the culprit, who's the aggressor. क्योंकि जब ये आइडेंटिफाई करना होता है कि who's the aggressor, it is generally a political decision. In Israel-Hamas conflict, that is the problem. Yes, whom do you identify to be the problem? Is it Hamas which started it through a terrorist attack, or is it Israel's response which is problematic? Yes. So anyways, when you have to take sides, it becomes difficult. So peacekeeping allows you to ensure maintenance of peace without taking sides in a conflict. Yes? So you find that peacekeeping operation has been extraordinarily successful. It is one of the most successful initiatives under UN to ensure global peace and security. But was it originally mentioned in the UN Charter? Originally, no, it was not mentioned. It is an innovation. It is an innovation of whom? Of Second Secretary General of UN, Dag Hammer. Yes. S.K. Jold. I know the pronunciation must be different, but going by the spelling, we just Dag Hammer S.K. Jold. ठीक है, इनका innovation था, a very creative man, a lot of faith in UN, and came out with a very creative solution of UN peacekeeping operations, and it has been particularly successful in maintaining relevance of UN to global peace and security. Without it, UN would have long back become irrelevant to global peace and security. Fine. Fine. In fact, this was in news because Dag Hammer S.K. Jold Medal was to be awarded posthumously to those who sacrificed their life in the UN peacekeeping operations. Fine. So you find that UN peacekeeping until 1992 there was no particular department to coordinate its action. It is only in the year 1992 that the Department of Peacekeeping Operations was established. And as such, 1948 is when we trace the first UN peacekeeping mission. One was UN Truce Supervision Organization. The other is UN Military Group in India and Pakistan in context of First India-Pakistan War. Yes, UN Military Observer Group was sent. Yes. However, you find that as far as UN peacekeeping, अच्छा एक और है conceptual point जो आपको पता होना चाहिए. One, we should understand its difference from collective security, and the other is that in the present times, since end of Cold War, what has happened? The nature of global conflicts have changed. Yes, previously it used to be interstate wars. Now they have transformed into intra-state wars. And this has made the peacekeeping operations more risky. Why? Because non-state actors are involved. Non-state actors का मतलब क्या होता है? Any actor in international politics which is not a nation state. Yes? So these ethnic groups, ethnic armed organizations, all these are getting increasingly involved in these wars. Yes? And as he was saying, when it comes to peacekeeping operations, you need consent of the warring parties. देखो लॉजिकल है, आप पीस कीपिंग फोर्सेस को भेजोगे, पीस कीपिंग फोर्सेस को भेजोगे तो दे जनरली डू नॉट हैव ऑफेंसिव वेपन्स, दे हैव ओनली डिफेंसिव वेपन्स. ठीक है, उनका पर्पस क्या है? वहाँ पे जाके पीस है ना, सीज फायर एनफोर्स करना. दे विल सी टू इट दैट द वॉरिंग पार्टीज डू नॉट एंगेज इन एक्टिव कॉम्बैट. यस, so they are there just to ensure peace. Yes, now how can a third party come and ensure peace when both the warring parties say fine, we will allow the UN peacekeeping forces to come and maintain peace or maintain ceasefire. Otherwise, if there is no consent, then this UN peacekeeping forces will become vulnerable to attack. Yes, by either of the two warring parties. So consent is essential. When it comes to collective security, consent nahi ho sakta. Yes, which country will say, okay, you can come and attack me? Yes, collective security is about taking military action. So no, the warring parties will not give the consent because one of them is identified to be the culprit. Fine. So this is with respect to UN peacekeeping operations. And once again, India is one of the active contributors to UN peacekeeping operation. Presently, it is the 5th largest troop contributor. Otherwise, India generally has been one of the largest troop contributing countries. It is also the first country to contribute to the trust fund on sexual exploitation and abuse. First country to deploy an all women contingent. Yes. And recently, Shakti Devi of JNK Police deployed in Afghanistan was awarded International Female Peacekeeper Award. Fine. So this is with respect to India is one of the prominent countries as far as UN peacekeeping is concerned. Then there is United Nations Economic and Social Commission for Asia and Pacific. Yes, Sustainable Finance Bridging the Gap in Asia and Pacific report was launched, published by UN Escape. Yes, United Nations Economic and Social Commission for Asia and Pacific. Yes, it was first established by ECOSOC in 1947 as United Nations Economic Commission for Asia and Far East, renamed as Escape. Headquarter Bangkok, Thailand में है. There are as such 5 regional commissions of UN. These are the 5 regional commissions for Africa, for Latin America and Caribbean, for Asia and Pacific, for Western Asia and for Europe. ठीक है. And the function is inclusive and sustainable development. Fine. There are 53 member countries. Next is United Nations Commission on International Trade Law. Yes, you find that it is a subsidiary body of UN. General Assembly mandated for further harmonization and unification of law of international trade. इसमें important point बस यही है कि WTO deals with trade policy, है ना, trade policy involving member countries, whereas this United Nations Commission on International Trade law deals with law which are applicable to private parties in international transaction, and it is not involved on state to state issues. ठीक है, तो स्टेट टू स्टेट इश्यूज़ नहीं, प्राइवेट पार्टीज़ MNCs वगैरह के रिगार्डिंग क्या लॉज होंगे उसके रिलेशन में एक्ट करता है यूनसीट्राल. ठीक है, फाइन. सो दिस इज़ द ओनली important point. You can just, for factual information, you can just go through it. United Nations Capital Development Fund. Fine, you should know them because if a question is asked, but ठीक है, there is you have Atal Innovation Mission, Niti Aayog, and United Nations Capital Development Fund released a white paper for agri-tech innovation in India. But when it is a UN, what is this UNCDF? It is UN flagship catalytic financing entity for the world's least developed countries. It is autonomous, voluntarily funded UN organization affiliated with UN Development Program. Global Crisis Response Group. Okay, these are some factual information you can go through on your own. United Nations Statistical Commission, थोड़ा सा important है, देख लेना. It was established in 1947. It is the highest body for global statistical system, bringing together chief statisticians from the member countries around the world. It oversees the work of UN Statistics Division, and it is a functional commission of, ये ECOSOC होना चाहिए, UN Economic and Social Council. It is ECOSOC. ठीक है, so ECOSOC has several such functional commissions. ठीक है, in fact I was telling you कि UN was established in context of promotion of global peace and security, but as such the primary or most of the time and effort of UN is spent on sustainable development, on promotion of development. उसमें ECOSOC is the most important organ which is given the duty to ensure economic and social development या economic, social and environmental development, है ना. तो ECOSOC has several such functional commissions such as on women, on narcotics and drugs, ऐसे करके इनके काफ़ी commissions है. तो one such commission is UN Statistical Commission. Fine, consists of 24 member countries. Term 4 years है. Then you have UNCTAD. Yes, United Nations Conference on Trade and Development. This report is important. That Trade and Development report कौन release करता है? UNCTAD. Yes, so it is a permanent intergovernmental body, helps developing countries participate more equitably. Yes, go through all this, है ना. ये Food Outlook, ये biannual report है. International Coffee Organization, all this, you go through it on your own. ये factual information है काफ़ी. Now L69 grouping is very very important. L69 would be important. L69 क्या है ये grouping? Yes, it is a grouping which calls for comprehensive reform of UNSC. Yes, it calls for membership expansion of permanent as well as non-permanent members of UNSC. Yes, in fact it is a grouping of 42 countries, and though the name says L.69, how many member countries it comprises of? It is 42 countries. Yes, and in these 42 countries, India and Brazil are also present. Yes, they are also members. As such, it comprises डेवलपिंग कंट्रीज फ्रॉम अफ्रीका, लैटिन अमेरिका, कैरेबियन, एशिया पैसिफिक, है ना, जो डेवलपिंग कंट्रीज, प्लस इट कंप्राइजेस सिड्स, स्मॉल आइलैंड डेवलपिंग स्टेट्स. इनफैक्ट ये जो रिफॉर्म डिमांड करती है उसमें दे ऑल्सो डिमांड ग्रेटर रिप्रेजेंटेशन, या रिप्रेजेंटेशन, एक्चुअली सिट्स तो रिप्रेजेंटेड ही नहीं होते, तो रिप्रेजेंटेशन ऑफ सिट्स in UNSC membership. Yes, they demand representation of SIDS in UNSC membership. Why? Because SIDS comprise 20% of UN's total membership. Small island developing countries, they comprise 20%. Yes, Maldives, Sri Lanka, Mauritius, Madagascar, ये सब क्या है? They are all SIDS. The Pacific Island nations, all of them are nothing but SIDS. Yes, so greater representation of theirs in UNSC. And also L69 has supported the Common Action Plan of Africa, yeah, of African Union, yes, which is reflected in their Ezulvini Consensus and Sirte Declaration. These two phrases very, very important. Ezulvini Consensus and Sirte Declaration. AU, African Union, has adopted Ezulvini Consensus and Sirte Declaration, on the basis of which they demand 2 seats, 2 permanent seats in UNSC with veto. ठीक है, तो ये in an L69 grouping supports the common African position या common action plan of African countries, which is reflected in their Ezulvini Consensus and Sirte Declaration. Yes. एक L69 grouping है, another grouping is the G4 countries. Which are the G4 countries? India, Brazil, Germany and Japan. And now the UPSC has also asked a question on which are the G4 countries. Yes. So out of the G4 countries demand seat in UNSC, permanent membership, permanent seat in UNSC with or without veto. ठीक है. But you find that G4 के India and Brazil are also part of L69 grouping. In fact, last year Indian Foreign Minister had hosted the L69 grouping on the sidelines of UN General Assembly. ठीक है, वहाँ पे भी reiteration of Ezulvini Consensus and Sirte Declaration, L69 giving its support for Africa's candidature in UNSC. ठीक है, तो these are this is with respect to the L69 grouping. अच्छा, एक तो G4 है, एक there is also something known as the Coffee Club. Yes, Coffee Club. They are also known as Uniting for Consensus Club. This is basically a group which opposes G4 countries' candidature. Yes, it is a group. Coffee Club or Uniting for Consensus Club. माइक उनको दे दीजिए.
मैम, ये जो यूनाइटेड नेशन पीस कीपिंग है, इट इज ए ऑर्गेनाइजेशन इटसेल्फ.
It is not an organization, it is an operation through which, है ना, it is a mechanism through which UN will maintain peace.
तो मैम ये डिसीजन कैसे लेता है? हाउ इट टेक्स डिसीजन?
अभी एक डिपार्टमेंट इन्होंने क्रिएट कर दिया है, डिपार्टमेंट ऑफ पीस कीपिंग सिंस 1992. लेकिन यूएन पीस कीपिंग ऑपरेशंस कहाँ डिप्लॉय होंगे उसका डिसीजन प्राइमरली इज टेकन बाय द P5 कंट्रीज. Yes, UNSC takes the primary decision with respect to deployment of the peacekeeping operations. It is one of the mechanisms to ensure peace through UN, जिसमें आप पनिश नहीं करोगे, आप सिर्फ सीज फायर एनफोर्स करोगे.
जो ICJ जो है इंटरनेशनल कोर्ट, वो भी इसको ऑर्डर दे सकता है क्या?
International Court of Justice. I will have to look into it, लेकिन generally it might suggest, है ना, कि you can a peacekeeping or a ceasefire should be है ना, maintained or operationalized through peacekeeping operations. But ICJ का domain is between a dispute between two parties, and as the case comes up,
Thank you.
we'll have to check that.
What are the members of coffee club?
कॉफ़ी क्लब के वंस अगेन अराउंड 40 प्लस कंट्रीज़ हैं जो उसके मेंबर्स हैं. प्रोमिनेंट मेंबर्स यू कैन रिमेंबर. लुक एट द G4 कैंडिडेचर. सो इंडिया को कौन अपोज करेगा? पाकिस्तान. ब्राज़ील को कौन अपोज करेगा? अर्जेंटीना. जापान को कौन अपोज करता है? साउथ कोरिया, ऑस्ट्रेलिया, बोथ अपोज इट. Yes, Germany is opposed by Italy, Spain. Yes, so these are the prominent countries, including Canada. Yes, so these are the prominent members of the coffee club. And uniting for consensus club क्यों कहते हैं? Because they have passed a resolution saying that they should be given membership, permanent membership in UNSC only when there is a consensus with respect to their membership. But coffee club members will ensure that consensus never emerges. Yes, Pakistan will never support India's candidature as a permanent member of UNSC. Similarly, Argentina will never support Brazil's candidature as a permanent member of UNSC. Fine, so that is the idea. But they are also known, therefore known as Uniting for Consensus Club, and its short form is, accepted acronym is UFC. UF is small, C is capital. Club. Fine. These groupings are one of the favorite areas for UPSC to ask question. UPSC generally has liked in the past to ask question with respect to UNSC reform. है ना, तो ये जो भी G4 L69 है, they are favorite areas.
About UNHRC, so you told that they deal with a thematic issue.
हाँ, thematic issues.
So what are those? I mean, does it involve a migration issue?
Any thematic, yes, migration, for example, and a refugee crisis. When there is a refugee crisis, there might be human rights issues, xenophobia, yes. When there is migration in large number from one country to another. What do we mean by xenophobia? It is basically fear, phobia of foreigners, yes. So any such, when xenophobia arise, so the immigrants' human rights might get violated. See, when we talked about UNHRC, we said one of the domain of UNHRC is that they will discuss and deliberate on thematic issues. They can discuss on any thematic issue. Thematic issue matlab broad issue concerning human rights of children, human rights of juvenile juvenile criminals, who are not in line with law. So there is generally a dilemma with respect to their human rights. Should they be put behind the bars? The rehabilitation homes, are they doing good or not good? Whatever it is. So when with respect to human rights, such thematic issues, such as with respect to migration, what are the human rights issues that arise? With respect to climate change, if there is some human rights issues which arise, women in war, children in war, so these broader issues they will discuss and deliberate, and they'll try to come out with certain consensus also eventually, some policy guidelines, some convention which will regulate, say, the human rights vis-a-vis those community in that situation, in a particular situation.
So migration is one of those.
Migration can be. Migration gives rise to several human rights issues, है ना? Racial violence होता है.
So isn't this deal by IOM, International Organization for Migration?
देखो, एक है International Organization for Migration, एक है refugees के लिए, है ना, UN. There is this HCR, है ना. So you find we are talking about thematic issues. So basically, अगर हमें अब migration, international organization for migration will deal with all issues vis-a-vis migration, है ना? They will have their own separate mandate. But when we are talking about UNHRC, we are saying that they can deliberate, they can discuss on thematic issues. So broad any broad development, be it climate change. अब climate change के लिए we can have
मनी लॉन्ड्रिंग आएगा इसमें?
मनी लॉन्ड्रिंग ह्यूमन राइट से कैसे रिलेट होगा?
टेररिस्ट फंडिंग हो सकती है.
टेररिस्ट फंडिंग वो अब ह्यूमन राइट से पर से रिलेट नहीं होगा, लेकिन हमास के कंटेक्स्ट में आपके
आई एम सेइंग थीमेटिक इशू. मनी लॉन्ड्रिंग कम्स इन थीमेटिक इशू.
नहीं, मनी लॉन्ड्रिंग कैन बी अ थीमेटिक इशू, बट इज इट रिलेटिंग टू ह्यूमन राइट्स? द क्वेश्चन इज, है ना, देखो अब वो ह्यूमन क्या है, यूनाइटेड नेशन ह्यूमन राइट्स काउंसिल, वो ह्यूमन राइट्स वाले इश्यूज को डील करेगा. अब ह्यूमन राइट्स आप उसको समझो ब्रॉड, कोई ऐसा जैसे आई टोल्ड यू ह्यूमन राइट्स ऑफ विमेन, क्लाइमेट चेंज की वजह से ह्यूमन राइट्स वायलेशन, रेफ्यूजीज का ह्यूमन राइट्स क्राइसिस, यस. तो इस तरह के जो ब्रॉड इश्यूज है, पॉपुलेशन गेटिंग इंटरनली डिस्प्लेस्ड, है ना, civil war giving rise to human rights concerns for women and children, for the civilian population, तो उसको डील करेगा UNHRC. थीमेटिक इश्यूज तो बहुत सारे थीमेटिक इश्यूज है. UPSC प्रिपरेशन इटसेल्फ कैन बी अ थीमेटिक इशू, है ना, तो वो तो UNHRC क्यों डील करेगा? तो वही है कि जो कंटेक्स्ट में है, कॉम्पिटिटिव एग्जाम कैन इटसेल्फ भी, है ना, तो थीमेटिक इश्यूज तो बहुत थीमेटिक इश्यूज है. बट व्हेन इट कम्स टू ह्यूमन राइट्स, दोज आर दी एरियाज जहाँ पे वो एक ब्रॉड डेलिब्रेशन करके एक ब्रॉड कंसेंसस, है ना, ब्रॉड पॉलिसी मेजर्स अराइव करना चाहेंगे टू प्रिवेंट ह्यूमन राइट्स वायलेशन. फाइन, सो दैट इज द आइडिया. एनीथिंग एल्स? फाइन. नाउ कमिंग टू G20. Yes, G20 was in news because it was held, and India was the president of G20. We organized the G20 summit last year in September 2023. Now G20 as such, when was G20 established? Its genesis is traced to 1999. It was in context of the Asian financial crisis of 1997 that G20 came into being. G20 was established in context of the Asian financial crisis of 1997. Asian financial crisis कहाँ हुआ? Primarily Southeast Asian economies में, जिनको हम टाइगर इकोनॉमीज भी कहते हैं. yes, because they witnessed very fast development. yes, once they adopted this idea of free trade, liberalization, privatization and globalization, they witnessed very fast growth. But in the year 1997 there was an East Asian financial crisis. It is in this context the world got thinking कि अभी क्या करें. yes, there has to be some forum of deliberation, and it is in this context ultimately G20 was created, yes, in 1999. Starting from 1999 till 2008, it functioned at finance minister and central bank governors level. So it was a forum whereby finance ministers and central bank governors of the member countries would meet. कब तक? From 1999, from its genesis till 2008. From 1999 till 2008. yes, central bank governors and finance ministers. Ultimately it was in November 2008 that the first summit was organized of G20. yes, in Washington DC. yes, in Washington DC. What is the reason that the first summit was organized? global financial crisis of 2007-8. It is in this context the world countries was once again looking for a forum for deliberation. G7 was found to be insufficient, and therefore ultimately they agreed that G20 is the right forum whereby most of the developing countries are also present, emerging economies are present, and the world leaders can deliberate on strengthening of the global financial architecture, global financial institutions, global financial governance. Yes, and therefore they started meeting at the summit level. Summit level का मतलब क्या होता है पहले? हेड ऑफ गवर्नमेंट, हेड ऑफ स्टेट लेवल, है ना. तो प्राइम मिनिस्टर या प्रेसिडेंट लेवल पे मीटिंग होने लगी. एंड इट इज़ ओनली सिंस देन दैट दिस G20 हैज़ गेन्ड a lot of public visibility. It has gained a lot of public visibility. Yes. Now, which are the member countries of G20? Which are the member countries of G20? Yes, G7 के जो countries है पहले वो सारे हैं. तो G7 में कौन कौन है? US, Canada, UK, France, Germany, Italy, and Japan. Yes, these are the G7 countries. Yes, G7 countries के अलावा अब G20 है. तो इसमें कौन कौन सी countries हैं? US, Canada. Let us yes, there is Mexico. Yes, यहाँ पे you have UK, France, Germany, Italy और क्या है? Russia. You have EU, है ना. We are going है ना, continent wise चलते हैं. तो जापान है, फिर यहाँ पे चाइना है, इंडिया, साउथ कोरिया, इंडोनेशिया, Saudi Arabia, UAE, is it there? You have Saudi Arabia, then you have Australia, you have Brazil, Argentina, you have Australia. Yes, you have Australia, you have European Union, and recently during India-led summit, African Union was also added. You also have Turkey. Yes, you have South Africa, AU and South Africa. Yes, so you find that these are the member countries. Yes, you have to remember it this way. I tend to remember it G7 countries, write down the G7 countries and then continent wise go on adding the countries. Yes, so that is how you can remember. Last year they have already asked a question on G20. Yes, they asked about its genesis. There was a question on its genesis, but its membership will still remain important. You can expect a question on its membership, and otherwise also year on year G20 will be an important forum on which a question might be asked. ठीक है, तो G20 के ये members हैं. What is the nature of G20? What is the nature of G20? It is an informal forum. Why is it considered as an informal forum? Yes. No formal declaration of what? क्यों कहते हैं इसको? Yes. Yes, because there is no secretariat, no permanent secretariat, and no formal charter. Yes, also its declarations on its own are not legally binding. It depends on member countries, dependent on member countries to implement the declaration or the decisions that have been taken under the declaration. Yes, because of these, no permanent secretariat, no formal charter, and the declaration in itself is not legally binding. These are the three reasons why we say that a G20 is an informal forum. Yes. As far as its working mechanism is concerned, yes, there are different tracks. There is an official track, through which negotiations, discussions and deliberations will take place. Then there is unofficial track of discussion and deliberation. Official track comprises, one is the finance or the financial track, and the other is the Sherpa or the envoy track, and the unofficial track is known as the engagement, or it comprises the engagement groups. Yes. The finance track comprises the central bank governors. It comprises the finance ministers. They meet 4 times per year, and this is the original track. Yes, in fact, as soon as G20 was created in 1999, which track came into existence was this track, whereby the finance ministers and the central bank governors would regularly meet and deliberate. Yes, then there is something known as the Sherpa track or the envoy track, and this came into existence since 2008. Once summit level meetings began, only then the Sherpa track or the envoy track came into existence. They are Sherpas, है ना, ये mountaineering terminology है ना. Mountaineering में you have Sherpas. Sherpas are the one who will carry your loads, है ना, carry the food cylinder while somebody is mountaineering. Yes, so they are basically representatives of national leadership. So each country's leader will send its representative. The prime ministers and the presidents do not have time to regularly meet and deliberate over a G20. They have many more priorities. They have domestic priorities. So they cannot regularly meet and deliberate and discuss. So they will send their envoys to represent them and discuss and deliberate. Yes. So in fact, therefore, it is logical that it came into existence only in 2008 with the summit level meetings beginning, and it is they comprise representatives of the national leadership. 2023, Amitabh Kant, yes, was Indian government Sherpa, was Prime Minister Modi's Sherpa. Yes. So you find that they are representatives of the national leadership, and they will discuss, deliberate, do the heavy lifting, diplomatic heavy lifting with the rest of the member countries. And then there is something known as the unofficial track, which will comprise, है ना, ये बहुत अलग अलग होते हैं, जैसे business 20, you have women 20, civil society organization 20, है ना, तो ये youth 20, parliamentarians 20, जो भी. So basically these are non-official entities, है ना, women, youth, business community who would want their interest represented in G20, because they will come out with policy guidelines with respect to financial governance, with respect to global financial architecture. So they have their stakes and they would want their voice to be represented. Yes, so the working mechanism is through these tracks, official and non-official. Official में finance track है, and the Sherpa or the envoy track, and unofficial track में you have these engagement groups. Fine. So this is how G20 works. Yes, and since they do not have a permanent secretariat नहीं है तो कोई bureaucratic body नहीं है उनके पास. Yes, so this who provides the secretariat, the logistics, is the president for that particular year. Yes, so the president for one particular year will set the agenda of G20 and provide it with the secretariat and logistics support. Yes, also the presidency is supported by the Trioca. Trioca मतलब क्या है? The president who has retired, the serving president, and the upcoming president. So you have previous, current, and incoming. So in 2023, the Trioca was Indonesia, India, Brazil. Brazil was incoming. And now 2024 Trioca is India, Brazil, and South Africa. Yes. And as far as presidency of G20 is concerned, the presidency of G20 rotates amongst its countries, and these countries are actually divided into 5 groups. Fine. The presidency rotates amongst the countries, the G20 countries, and the G20 countries are divided into 5 groups. ठीक है, ये जो 20 countries है या 19 countries है, in fact, है ना, EU never becomes the president. 19 countries divided into 5 groups, and amongst the groups the presidency will rotate, and when the presidency reaches one group, all members are eligible within that group, and the members amongst themselves will decide who will become the president for that year. Fine. So that is how G20 works. Fine. Now as far as G20, the summit which was hosted in New Delhi by India, yes, इसका primary outcomes क्या थे? Primary outcome था इसका, first outcome था AU has been given full membership of G20. Yes, now apart from EU, it is the second regional organization which is present in G20. Second major outcome was Global Biofuel Alliance, and third major outcome was IMEC corridor. Yes, India, Middle East, Europe economic corridor. Fine. So these are the 3 primary outcomes of this G20 summit. Now let us have a brief look into these outcomes. Yes, what does Global Biofuel Alliance Yes, so details on these key initiative, Global Biofuel Alliance, it was launched by India along with leaders of Singapore, Bangladesh, Italy, US, Brazil, Argentina, Mauritius and UAE. Yes, so there are 4 guest countries, है ना, जैसे Bangladesh, yes, Mauritius, UAE, they were guest countries who were invited by India, है ना. So you have these many countries which signed an agreement to launch Global Biofuel Alliance. Now what is this Global Biofuel Alliance? It is to serve as a catalytic platform. Yes, it is to foster global collaboration for advancement and widespread adoption of biofuels. Yes, so biofuels क्या है? Fuels which originate from biomass, है ना. बायोमास को हार्नेस करके जो फ्यूल प्रोड्यूस करते हैं उसको बायोफ्यूल बोलते हैं. The alliance will act as a central repository of knowledge, yes, an expert hub. तो expert hub and as a catalytic platform fostering global collaboration for basic purpose है advancement and widespread adoption of biofuels. What are the benefits of GBA for India? India के लिए they have identified on the website that it will boost India's biofuel initiatives such as PM जीवन योजना, सतात करके है, गोबर्धन स्कीम है. Yes, maybe you can do a Google search on all these schemes. Yes, then contribute to increasing farmer incomes, create new jobs, reduce oil dependency. Yes, achieve national target of 20% ethanol blending in petrol by 2025-26. Additional opportunities for Indian industries. और प्रेजेंट GBA मेंबर्स कौन है? साइन इन्होंने ही किया, इतने ही कंट्रीज़ ने, बट प्रेजेंटली यू फाइंड 7 G20 कंट्री, 4 G20 इन्वाइटी कंट्रीज़ प्लस 8 नॉन G20 countries plus 12 international organizations have joined GBA, Global Biofuel Alliance. Fine, next is IMEC, India, Middle East, Europe Economic Corridor. A very important corridor है ना. Global Biofuel Alliance पे भी question expect कर सकते हैं, IMEC पे भी expect कर सकते हैं बिल्कुल. Now what is this IMEC? Basically it was an MOU on IMEC was signed during the G20 summit. और किन किन के बीच में साइन हुआ? India, US, Saudi Arabia, UAE, France, Germany, Italy and EU. Yes, so all these countries and EU signed the MOU on IMEC corridor. अब IMEC corridor क्या है? It will multimodal transportation corridor है. It is a multimodal. Multimodal मतलब different modes of transport. Yes, sea, rail, road will be used for bolstering connectivity between India via the Arabian Peninsula to Europe. Yes, fine. So this is the idea that and it will comprise 2 corridors. एक है East Corridor which will link India to the Persian Gulf. Persian Gulf is also known as the Arabian Gulf. Yes, it will link. This is the East Corridor linking India to Persian Gulf, and then there is a North Corridor which will link Persian Gulf to Europe. Yes, Europe में किससे लिंक करेंगे? The transshipment port of Piraeus on in Greece. Fine. And the aim क्या है? Is to provide reliable and cost-effective cross-border transit network enabling good and services to transit to, from and between India, UAE, Saudi Arabia. Yes, you have Israel, Jordan and Europe. Greece is basically going to be a corridor or gateway into Europe. Fine. So the aim is to provide alternative transport route. जो अभी traditional route of connectivity is via Suez Canal. It is via Bab-el Mandeb Strait, Red Sea, Suez Canal into the Mediterranean. Yes, so we are trying to come out with another alternative route, that is IMEC. इसके अलावा और क्या alternative route है जो हम INSTC, International North-South Transport Corridor, is the other alternative route that India, Russia and Iran are particularly working upon. Yes, and IMEC is basically क्या it is the brainchild of US, है ना. US ने heavy lifting करी है इसके लिए, and US by ensuring normalization of relations between the Arab countries and Israel was working to operationalize IMEC. IMEC could not have been possible क्योंकि Israel is one of the, है ना, Haifa port in Israel is going to serve as one of the terminals. तो अगर इसराइल के साथ UAE के normalize नहीं हो relation, yes, so it cannot be operationalized, and that was achieved by US through the Abraham Accord. Yes, and also US was working on Israel-Saudi Arabia normalization of relations. Yes, however, this project has suffered a setback because of the Israel-Hamas conflict. Yes, fine. Apart from this transshipment corridor that we have spoken of, IMEC will also comprise, you can mention it, you can write it down. IMEC will also comprise cables for electricity and digital connectivity. Cables for electricity and digital connectivity. Sorry, I'll have to check once. Let me check once before I comment on it. ठीक है. Yes, it will also comprise, उनको भी दे दीजिए माइक. Yes, a cable for electricity and digital connectivity.
Does IMEC counter BRI?
IMEC is, yes, we are going to discuss. IMEC is actually a project led by US. It is thought to be part of, किसका है IMEC, किसका part है? PGII, yes, Partnership for Global Infrastructure Investment. Yes, and it is PGII is actually meant to counter BRI. Yes, we'll discuss that. And secondly, it might also comprise a pipeline for clean hydrogen export. Yes. Yes, as we just mentioned that this project forms part of Partnership for Global Infrastructure and Investment. Yes, and PGII, see PGII as such in itself was announced in 2022. ठीक है, 2021 में क्या अनाउंस हुआ था? It was Build Back Better World, B3W was announced. Yes, in 2021, B3W, Build Back Better World, by who announced it? Biden. Yes, US President Joseph Biden had announced this project as part of G7. In the G7 summit in UK, Biden had announced B3W. However, later on it was in 2022 Germany summit of G7 that this B3W was reconceptualized into PGII. It was reconceptualized into PGII. Yes, and PGII is launched by G7 as a means to counter China's BRI. Yes, as a means to counter China's BRI. Fine. Now, as far as PGII is concerned, then PGII is also very important area from which UPSC we can expect questions by UPSC. PGII has identified 4 priority areas या 4 pillars of cooperation. लिख लो, PGII has identified 4 pillars of cooperation. Which are these 4 pillars of cooperation? First is to tackle climate crisis. First is to tackle the climate crisis and ensure clean energy supplies around the world. Yes, second is to advance gender equality and gender equity. Third is to upgrade global health infrastructure. And fourth is to bolster digital information and ICT network. Yes. So these are the 4 pillars of cooperation that they have identified under PGII. How is PGII different from BRI? लिखो, PGII versus BRI. Yes. See, basically PGII tries to distinguish itself from BRI. जो भी हमें BRI के बारे में पता है उसके against होगा PGII. One of the pillars that we see is about clean energy. So you find that PGII emphasizes that it will fund projects which are based on production of clean energy. However, BRI is involved in investment in coal-fired power plants. They do not emphasize on clean energy per se. लिख लो, point number 1. PGII focuses on clean energy. And BRI is funding coal-fired power plants. BRI का क्या है, फंडिंग क्या है, स्टेट लेड है ना. इट इज प्राइमरीली या सोली स्टेट लेड. प्राइवेट इन्वेस्टमेंट को कोई स्पेस नहीं है अंडर BRI. यस, व्हाई इज इट सो? क्यों है BRI, क्यों है स्टेट लेड फंडिंग? द स्टेट बैंक्स ऑफ चाइना फंड द BRI. तो ऐसा क्यों है? सो व्हाट हैपन्स? They could have asked private businessman from China to invest. Yes, government वो possible इसलिए क्योंकि government has massive surplus with itself. They have huge forex surplus है ना. इंडिया के साथ वो ट्रेड करके they are going to है ना achieve $100 billion surplus. Yes, तो हमारे से ये 100 बिलियन. सो दुनिया में हर देश के साथ उनका surplus है ना. when it comes to balance of trade they enjoy a surplus. why do they enjoy a surplus? mercantilist state, please है ना, ये सारे कुछ conceptual clarity है that you should have. mercantilist state का मतलब क्या है China is one country which actively interferes in its foreign trade to ensure surplus BOP. All colonial powers in the past were mercantilist state. इसीलिए drain of wealth हुआ from India to Britain. Why? Because Britain was a mercantilist state then. Yes, all colonial powers were mercantilist state, and present day example of mercantilist state is China. So China has such large surplus of forex that it can invest around the world. Yes, so इसी वजह से China का BRI is state-led investment. Yes, state banks of China invest. But when it comes to PGII, इसका funding क्या होगा? Public investment is going to be used as a catalyst to actually garner larger amount of private funding. है ना? In fact, हर country दुनिया में चाइना को छोड़ के ऐसे ही फंड कर रही है ना. All the projects that we see, infrastructure projects or other projects being funded around the world, the mode of funding is the public funding is used as a catalyst to mobilize large private capital. Fine, क्योंकि अगर government invest कर रही है तो it tells the private investor that this project is going to be investor friendly. They can pump in their money. Fine, so that is the idea. तो उसमें क्या है? BRI is state funded, whereas PGI would be largely private funded. One of you was also mentioning this with respect to BRI. It is opaque in nature. Yes, one of the criticism that India says or India has about BRI is its opaque nature. Yes, Chinese government forces other countries to sign secret agreements with Chinese government which they cannot disclose. Confidential agreements are signed. But in case of PGII, their cornerstone is transparency. तो यहाँ पे BRI opaque in nature, whereas PGII transparent in nature. या transparency will be the cornerstone. फिर हमें क्या पता है चाइनीज नेचर ऑफ इन्वेस्टमेंट कैसा होता है? डज नॉट जनरेट लोकल एम्प्लॉयमेंट. यस, हाउएवर व्हेन इट कम्स टू PGII, local employment will be generated. Yes, BRI does not generate local employment. Chinese workers and contractors are employed under BRI projects या employed in BRI projects. और यहाँ पे under PGII local employment will be generated. Then another criticism of BRI, बताओ. Death diplomacy. He says death diplomacy. Why? है ना? It creates death burden. Unsustainable projects are financed. Yeah, financial sustainability is not thoroughly studied, and it is an instrument of death diplomacy. Yes, everybody understands. By giving death, you are trying to promote good relation. So death diplomacy वही है. And on the other hand, PGII will make sure that the projects are financially sustainable before they are funded. And then India is part of PGII. India is a beneficiary of PGII, whereas India has opted out of BRI. Fine, so these are this is the difference between PGII. PGII के 4 pillars also you should know. G7 countries have taken or launched this initiative during their Germany summit in 2022. Yes, also there is another initiative which I always mention is Blue Dot Network, another initiative to counter China's BRI. Blue Dot Network क्या है? It was Blue Dot Network. What is this initiative? Yeah, when was it founded? It was established in 2019 by US, Australia, Japan. Yes, Blue Dot Network, founded in 2019 by US, Japan, Australia. By US, Japan, Australia during Indo-Pacific Business Forum. लिखो next point. It is led by USA's IDFC, International Development Finance Corporation. International Development Finance Corporation. Yes. Next point लिखो इसी में. It is a multi-stakeholder initiative. Multi-stakeholder initiative which will bring together government, private sector and civil society. Yes, and next point write down, which is the crux. Crux क्या है? BRI क्या है? It provides investments to build infrastructure. On the other hand, Blue Dot Network will be a certification system, global certification system, which will rank the infrastructure projects based on financial sustainability, environmental sustainability, all such criterias. Yes, so that it is able to attract, such projects are able to attract private investments. Fine, so that is the idea. Write it down. Unlike BRI, which involves direct financing of investment projects, of infrastructure projects, comma, Blue Dot Network is a certifying initiative. It is a certifying initiative to verify the projects to be financially and environmentally sustainable. Full stop. It will help attract private capital. To projects in developing and emerging economies. Yes, fine. So that is Blue Dot Network. PGII and Blue Dot Network are two prominent initiatives by the Western countries to counter BRI. ठीक है, तो PGI में एक तो initiative है this IMEC corridor. Another major initiative is something known as Trans-African Corridor. Across Africa, a connectivity network would be laid down. And what is significance of IMEC for India? It will speed up trade between India and Europe. Yes, reduce logistics cost and boost Act West policy of India. Yes, significant. In fact, its importance has been further highlighted because of the involvement of Houthi rebels imposing a blockade on the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, consequently Red Sea and the Suez Canal. Yes, so it is in this context that has become essential that we come out with alternative routes of access between Asia and Europe. Yes, between India and Europe, and at times IMEC is also referred to as the modern version of the ancient spice route. BRI को क्या बोलते हैं? BRI को हाँ सिल्क रूट इनिशिएट है ना, दे वांट टू रिवाइटलाइज द एंशिएंट सिल्क रूट, क्योंकि सिल्क का एक्सपोर्ट प्राइमरली यूज टू टेक प्लेस फ्रॉम चाइना टू यूरोप, एंड नाउ वी कॉल IMEC एज स्पाइस रूट है ना. वी वांट टू रिवाइटलाइज द एंशिएंट स्पाइस रूट. Yes, because once again trading, since India used to be the exporter of spices. Fine. Now there is this concept of brand line. Yes, इससे अगर question आएगा तो बस एक ही sentence ही आएगा. What do you mean by brand line? Maybe 4 statements. So brand line is a line which is used to distinguish developing and the developed world. Global north from global south. Now whenever we use this term global north, please remember it means developed countries. In terms of GDP, in terms of technology, they are developed. Yes, and global south means developing countries. Please be careful, global north or global south has nothing to do with hemispheres, northern or southern hemisphere. For example, Australia is part of southern hemisphere but part of global north. India part of northern hemisphere but very much part of global south. In fact, we want to reclaim the leadership of global south. India as part of G20 had G20 summit, leading to G20 summit, and before ending its presidency we hosted Voice of Global South summits. Yes. So fine, this Brent line is traced back to the Brent report of 1980, which proposed a division between north and south countries based on technological advancement, GDP and standard of living. Also there is this distinction of global north south तो नहीं बोलते. अच्छा, एक है the first world countries, the second world countries and third world countries. इसका क्या मतलब है? first world मतलब क्या है? Actually it meant the capitalist countries, second world countries stood for communist countries, and third world countries are developing post colonial states. But now what has happened, second world में ज़्यादा कोई countries है नहीं, तो अब सिर्फ हम first world and third world countries ही refer करते हैं. First world means developed western countries and third world means developing countries. Also we make this distinction between global east and global west. Yes, west stands for, this is the cultural distinction basically है ना. और generally हम climate change के debate में we talk about global east and global west. West is the western industrialized developed countries and global east comprises developing countries in general. However, China and Russia we would include it in global east as such. Fine. Yes, G20, the theme of G20 summit for India was Vasudeva Kutumbakam, and we explained it as one earth, one family, one future. Yes, few little and thoda factual information I have incorporated here. That apart from the G20 countries, India invited few guest countries. कौन थे वो? Bangladesh, Singapore, UAE, Oman, Mauritius, Nigeria, Egypt, Spain and Netherlands. Few international organizations also we had invited and few regional organizations, not very important. You should just know that. फिर theme क्या था? एक था वसुदेव कुटुंबकम. This is the primary theme which stood for one earth, one family, one future. And it is drawn from the ancient Sanskrit text of Maha Upanishad. Yes, essentially the theme affirms the value of all life. Ki all life forms are equally valuable, be it human, animal, plant or microorganism, and interconnectedness is emphasized. ठीक है, तो ये महा उपनिषद से ये phrase, and this is in fact a civilizational value of India, Vasudeva Kutumbakam. Yes. And the theme also spotlighted what is known as lifestyle for environment, with its associated environmentally sustainable and responsible choices. ठीक है, तो लाइफ थीम पे भी एम्फोसिस था. Then what was the G2023 logo? This was the logo that we had come out with. Yes, so you have the planet Earth resting on lotus. Yes. Yes, so lotus, government of India has chosen lotus. Why? Because they explained it. Despite the present world is a world of turmoil, crisis, and lotus tends to bloom in adversity. So, so just like the lotus plant, the countries of the world can also continue to flourish. Yes, and they have used the flag colors of Indian flag. Yes, green, saffron, green, orange, blue, yes, and white. Fine. So this was the logo, and they have explained it. जो उन्होंने explain किया, I have mentioned it. Yes, the earth reflects India's pro-planet approach to life, one in perfect harmony with nature. Yes, and fine. And there are 7 petals of the lotus, which represents the 7 continents. Fine. As such, one of the outcomes was African Union has become full member of G20. African Union comprises how many countries? 55 countries. Yes, 55 countries. And you should look into the political map of Africa. Yes, it will be important. Political, and in fact, आपने geography में physical map भी देखना है Africa का, but political map is also equally important. You should know the countries. Yes, have a brief idea with respect to, I always say, east coast of Africa is very, very important. Now not just east coast, but up till Egypt, है ना, ये सारे countries you should know in a relative sequence. You should know the countries of, है ना, West Africa, इधर the Nigeria, Benin, Togo, Ghana, Cote d'Ivoire, Liberia, Sierra Leone, यहाँ पे भी coup they had, है ना, there was an attempted coup, Guinea, and so you should know all these countries. Nigeria has recently been suspended out of AU's membership. Yes, so you should know all this. So you have important countries otherwise also, है ना, ये सब have a know-how. Have a know-how. In fact, there is this region known as Maghreb region. Maghreb region कौन सा region है? This is the Maghreb region. Yes, Libya, Tunisia, Algeria and Morocco. ठीक है, ये जो country है ये Western Sahara है यहाँ पे. Then you have what is known as the Sahel region. Sahel region या Sub-Saharan Africa, below the Saharan desert. It is the most impoverished region of the entire world. Yes, you have here you have Horn of Africa. It is known by the acronym SEED. Yes, so it stands for Somalia, Ethiopia, Eritrea and Djibouti. Yes, you have SEED. You have East Africa Forum. East Africa Forum, है ना, East Africa Forum. You have Uganda, Rwanda, Burundi, Tanzania, Kenya. You have now Democratic Republic of Congo. You have Somalia. Check Sudan or South Sudan is one of the countries. ठीक है, East Africa Forum, very, very important. It is presently a customs union. It is presently a customs union, but wants to become ultimately a political federation. They want to become a common market, a monetary union, and then a political federation या political confederation भी बोलते हैं. Fine. So this is their ultimate aim. They want to become like EU. In fact, they want to become like a one country. India is also a federal state. Yes. So these countries would become like states within a confederation. USSR was a confederation. ठीक है. तो इस तरह से their ultimate aim is this. And recently you find Somalia has become a federation of Somalia has joined. उससे पहले DRC had joined. Otherwise, originally 6 member states were present. Yes, 6 member states में Uganda, Rwanda, Burundi, Tanzania, Kenya and Sudan, है ना? Sudan or South Sudan, just check once. Fine. Then there is also South Africa Customs Union. South Africa. Yes, Southern Africa Customs Union. Yes, Southern Africa Customs Union comprises these 5 countries. Yes, you have Namibia, Botswana, South Africa, you have Lesotho and Swaziland. Yes, so these are the 5 countries which are members of SACU, Southern Africa Customs Union. Fine. And I have talked about African Union. And आप पॉलिटिकल मैप में ये सब जो छोटे छोटे कंट्रीज, अंगोला है ना, अंगोला हैज़ बीन इन न्यूज़. वाई? हाँ, रिसेंटली ओपेक से बाहर आए हैं ये, है ना. दे हैव सस्पेंडेड देयर मेंबरशिप ऑफ ओपेक. तो यू नीड टू, यू गैबॉन, कॉन्गो है ना, ये इक्वेटोरियल गिनी, कैमरून, ये सब इम्पॉर्टेंट कंट्रीज़ हैं. यू शुड बी अवेयर ऑफ देयर रिलेटिव लोकेशन कि ठीक है, हाँ इस एरिया में ये कंट्री है. इफ़ यू कीप लुकिंग एट द मैप्स यू विल बिकम अवेयर. ऑल्सो प्लीज़ पे अटेंशन व्हेन इट कम्स टू अफ्रीका ऑफ द आइलैंड नेशंस. ठीक है, तो यू हैव सेशील्स, कॉमोरोस, मदागास्कर, फ्रेंच रियूनियन एंड मॉरिशस. यस, कॉमोरोस में एक आइलैंड है, द मेयोत island, which is a French territory. So एक यहाँ पे French territory है, Reunion Island, and the other French territory is the Mayotte Island of Comoros archipelago. Yes, so you should be aware. Also there are these islands, the Madeira Island, the Canary Island, Cape Verde, है ना. Geography में या तो आपने इनको पढ़ा होगा. Even if you have not studied, they are very very important. Know them. Yes, these are important islands. So the Madeira belongs to Portugal, Canary to Spain. You have Cape Verde as such as an independent country. Yes, so important islands are there. Fine. Fine. When we have covered all this, these are some है ना, अब जो factual information है that you can look into, that there is a proposal to launch a G20 satellite mission for environment and climate observation and all such, cryptocurrency, financial inclusion action plan, है ना. ये सब आप एक बार देख लेना. But whatever is important, African Union का headquarter कहाँ है? This Ababa in Ethiopia, it was launched in 2002 as a successor to Organization of African Unity, 55 members. Yes, it is the second regional organization to become the member of G20. AU has suspended Niger, है ना, मैंने भी शायद नाइजीरिया बोला था क्या, Niger from all its activities due to its recent military coup, है ना. और Nigeria has also been in news. Why? Mass abductions, yes, and Boko Haram. Yes, mass abductions and Boko Haram. And then there is also something known as African Continental FTA. Yes, so African Continental FTA, all the 55 countries have signed an FTA agreement, free trade agreement, turning African continent into the largest free trade area. Yes, and there is Southern African Customs Union, which I just discussed. Swaziland का new name is Eswatini. Yes, Eswatini is the new name of Swaziland. So be careful. Swaziland and Lesotho, or Eswatini and Lesotho both are landlocked countries within South Africa. Yes. Once again other initiatives, आप ये सब पढ़ लेना. महर्षि इनिशिएटिव है ना, इसको एक बार थोड़ा डिटेल में देख लेना. मिलेट वगैरह के बारे में है, सो है ना, इट बिकम्स इम्पॉर्टेंट. Fine, India Indonesia economic and financial dialogue, you can go through it. Yes, next important organization would be BIMSTEC. BIMSTEC क्या है? It is an inter-regional, yes, it is an inter-regional organization. It is known as 5+2 grouping. It was established, it was founded as BIMSTEC in 1997 through Bangkok Declaration. Yes. इसके मेंबर कौन थे? बांग्लादेश, इंडिया, श्रीलंका एंड थाईलैंड. It was in 1997 itself. Myanmar decided to join. Yes, in 1997 itself, and the name was changed to BIMSTEC. Yes, Bangladesh, India, Myanmar, Sri Lanka, Thailand Economic Cooperation Organization. And later on in 2004, Nepal and Bhutan joined. So now the acronym remains the same, but the full form, yes, has changed. It is known as Bay of Bengal Initiative for Multi-Sectoral Technical and Economic Cooperation. Yes, इसका secretariat कहाँ है? It is in Dhaka, Bangladesh. We know the purpose of it, and it was in 2022 when the summit, when the 5th summit took place to mark its 25th anniversary. Colombo में हुआ था ये summit, and they formalized the charter. They signed the BIMSTEC charter, which formalized the grouping into an organization. Yes, so इस organization का first finance minister level पे meeting कहाँ हुई? 2023 में, है ना? The first ever foreign minister level meeting of this organization as such took place in Bangkok. Fine, in 2023. And they have identified 7 pillars of cooperation. Security pillar to be led by India. Yes, BIMSTEC as such, you है ना, BIMSTEC में prelims के perspective से तो यही important है. BIMSTEC otherwise is seen as an alternative to SAARC. UPSC has already asked a question, I think so in 2022 they had asked a question, compare and contrast BIMSTEC and SAARC. Yes, BIMSTEC principles will also be important. Look into the BIMSTEC founding principles of BIMSTEC. Sovereign equality, territorial integrity, political independence, non-interference in internal affairs, peaceful coexistence and mutual benefit. Then you have ASEAN. Yes, India ASEAN summit had taken place. India ASEAN relations, when did we enter into summit level relation? India launched Look East policy in 1992. We became a dialogue partner in 1992. Yes, in 2002 we entered into summit level partnership. Yes, summit level partnership 2012. We entered into strategic partnership. Yes, and 2022 comprehensive strategic partnership. So every decade our relations with ASEAN has deepened. Yes, so 2002 में first summit था, and now recently also there was a summit, yes, last year, which took place, and in this summit India came out with a 12-point proposal to deepen its ties with ASEAN. One of the proposal was multimodal connectivity, an economic corridor linking Southeast Asia, India, West Asia, Europe. Basically IMEC को ही India planned to extend it to Southeast Asia. Yes, so you find India, West Asia, Europe, yeah, India, Middle East, Europe economic corridor, we plan to extend it to Southeast Asia by bolstering connectivity between India and Southeast Asia. Also very, very important was sharing India's digital public infrastructure stack with ASEAN partners. ठीक है, एक डिजिटल पब्लिक इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर एक टर्म है ना, एक फ्रेज है, डिजिटल पब्लिक इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर. इसका मतलब क्या है? डिजिटल पब्लिक इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर, yes, public infrastructure which is digital in nature. So basically there is ID and some ID proof. Yes, there is financial inclusion, financial transaction that takes place, है ना. ऐसे करके एक और इसमें 3 चीज़ें आइडेंटिफाइड होती है. And India is one of the first countries who have completed this stack. We have Aadhaar, है ना, which for ID proof. फिर financial inclusion through UPI, है ना. UPI interface is used to transfer money. Yes, you have digital wallets these days. So this is India's, है ना, India's digital public infrastructure stack बोलते हैं इसको. ठीक है, India's digital public infrastructure stack. And now we have said that we will share it with ASEAN countries because India is one of the earliest countries to have developed this stack. In fact, you must have been reading in newspapers how this UPI financial transaction interface has become very, very popular. है ना, UAE, Saudi Arabia, all these countries in fact want to learn from India's experience. Yes, so we have said that we will share India's digital public infrastructure stack with ASEAN countries. Yes, an ASEAN India Fund for Digital Future for cooperation in digital transformation and financial connectivity. Now what is important, एक तो आप ये please, है ना, look into detail India's digital public infrastructure stack. Yes, this would be important. Next, what is important is ASEAN itself. UPSC has asked questions as simple as which are the member countries of ASEAN. Now how was ASEAN established? ASEAN was established in 1967 through Bangkok Declaration. Yes, and 5 countries were the founding members. If you can think, let me show it to you or else. जो फाउंडिंग मेंबर्स कौन कौन से थे? Yes, yes, the founding members were Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia and Philippines. The 5 prominent big countries. Yes, they were the 5 founding members. क्या है? Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia and Philippines. Yes, presently there are 10 member countries. 10 member countries कौन है ASEAN के? Start from Myanmar. So you have Myanmar, Thailand, Bangkok, Cambodia, Laos, Vietnam, Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia, Brunei, Yes, this small country you can see here, Brunei and Philippines. Yes, these are the 10 member countries. ये जो आप पेनिनसुला देख रहे हो, yes, this is known as Indo-China Peninsula. Yes, and recently East Timor has been given in principle admission into ASEAN, लेकिन अभी तक फुल मेंबर बना नहीं है. Which are the two observer countries of ASEAN? East Timor and Papua New Guinea. Yes, so this island has been divided into two countries. One is Indonesia and the other is Papua New Guinea. Papua New Guinea as such is a member of Pacific Island Forum, and therefore Papua New Guinea has not been given membership of ASEAN. Fine. And when it comes to ASEAN, अच्छा एक और कंसेप्ट है एशियान प्लस 3. एशियान प्लस 3. एशियान प्लस 3 में कौन सी कंट्रीज़ है? द 10 एशियान कंट्रीज प्लस चाइना, जापान एंड साउथ कोरिया. सो जो ये ईस्ट एशियन कंट्रीज़ हैं, है ना, प्रोमिनेंट ईस्ट एशियन कंट्रीज़ में यही है, चाइना, जापान एंड साउथ कोरिया. Which are the 6 FTA partners? Which are the 6 FTA partners of ASEAN? कौन है? चाइना, इंडिया, जापान, South Korea, Australia and New Zealand. These are the 6 FTA partners of ASEAN. What about RCEP, Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership? Which are the member countries of RCEP? 10 ASEAN countries plus 5 of its 6 FTA partners. Yes, so except minus India, है ना, as you said. So it is 10 ASEAN plus China, Japan, Australia, New Zealand, South Korea. ठीक है. एक बहुत इम्पॉर्टेंट फोरम है इनका, ईस्ट एशिया समिट. अभी पीएम मोदी had also attended East Asia Summit. Yes, East Asia Summit के member countries कौन है? The 10 ASEAN countries plus its 6 FTA partners plus 2 global powers, USA and Russia. Yes, that is how you remember membership of these organizations. All these organizations very important from membership perspective. Yes. Also when it comes to ASEAN, this TAC is very important, Treaty of Amity and Cooperation. Yes, this was a very important treaty that was signed in 1976 and which embodies the principles of peaceful coexistence. Yes, ASEAN का secretariat कहाँ है? Indonesia, Jakarta. Member countries, I have told you, dialogue partners, you can have a look. Which are the dialogue partners? Yes. Then you have other key information, ASEAN community, very, very important. Yes, ASEAN community. Chalo, when we come to the next organization, I'll tell you. ASEAN community, it was launched in 2015 and it comprises these 3 pillars. Yes, so ASEAN political and security community, economic community and socio-cultural community. It led to structuralization of ASEAN. ASEAN क्या एक बहुत मेजर पेडेस्टल of strengthening its cooperation was these three communities, three pillars that were identified. Then you have ASEAN क्रॉस सेक्टोरल इनिशिएटिव्स. तो ये कुछ इनिशिएटिव्स एशियान कनेक्टिविटी, स्मार्ट सिटीज़, ये ASEAN +3 I have told you. Regional forums, East Asia Summit membership was important. ASEAN Regional Forum, ASEAN Defense Ministers Meeting plus Expanded ASEAN Maritime Forum. ये तीनों के जो नीचे हैं ARF, ADMM plus and EAMF, इनके members are not very important. जिनके important थे I have told you. Fine, just know them. देन कनेक्टिविटी प्रोजेक्ट्स जो इंडिया का इनके साथ है, एक तो इंडियाज़ ट्रेड विद ASEAN अकाउंट्स फॉर 11% ऑफ इंडियाज़ ग्लोबल ट्रेड विच इज़ क्वाइट सिग्निफिकेंट. प्लस वी हैव कनेक्टिविटी प्रोजेक्ट्स इंडिया म्यांमार थाईलैंड ट्राइलैटरल हाईवे एंड कालादान मल्टी मॉडल कॉरिडोर. वंस अगेन ये इम्पॉर्टेंट है. कालादान मल्टी मॉडल कॉरिडोर इज़ मोर और लेस डेड राइट नाउ. क्यों है डेड? अब ये न्यूज़ में था काफ़ी. यस, मिलिट्री कू इन म्यांमार. एंड मिलिट्री कू से ज़्यादा वहाँ पे क्या हो गया है? द थ्री ब्रदरहुड अलायंस. यस, गेनिंग कंट्रोल, द एथनिक आर्म्ड ग्रुप्स गेनिंग टेरिटोरियल कंट्रोल इन म्यांमार. यस, it is in this context you find that जो पलेतवा है ना, ये एक इम्पॉर्टेंट पॉइंट था. पलेतवा हैज़ गॉन इन कंट्रोल ऑफ द अरक्कन आर्मी. ठीक है, अरक्कन आर्मी हैज़ कैप्चर्ड पलेतवा. तो इस वजह से यहाँ पे बहुत ज़्यादा इंस्टेबिलिटी है एंड दिस प्रोजेक्ट इज़ ऑलमोस्ट डेड. बट एनीवेज इट एम्स टू कनेक्ट द कोलकाता पोर्ट टू द सितवे पोर्ट. यस, कोलकाता पोर्ट टू सितवे पोर्ट एंड फिर सितवे पोर्ट टू पलेतवा वाया रिवर कालादान एंड फ्रॉम पलेतवा टू जोरिनपुई. जोरिनपुई इज़ बॉर्डर क्रॉसिंग बिटवीन इंडिया एंड म्यांमार. मिज़ोरम में है बॉर्डर क्रॉसिंग जोरिनपुई. Zorinpui and then into Aizawl. Yes, then into Aizawl, which is the capital of Mizoram. Fine. बीच में एक लोंगताई भी आइडेंटिफाई करते हैं लोकेशन, है ना. तो आप ये याद रख सकते हो, फ्रॉम कोलकाता टू सितवे, सितवे टू पलेतवा, पलेतवा टू जोरिनपुई, देन लोंगताई LOWNGTAI, LAWNGTAI and then to Aizawl. These are important hubs, but this project is almost dead. उसके अलावा you have the trilateral, this trilateral corridor connecting India to Thailand. Yes, so More है ना टू मेसोत इन थाईलैंड. लेकिन ये प्रोजेक्ट सब वायबल नहीं है. एंड द अदर इज़ द सीमेक कॉरिडोर. इट इज़ एन इन्वर्टेड वाई शेप्ड कॉरिडोर. यस, विच वुड लिंक क्योकफ्यू प्राइमरली, विच इज़ अ पोर्ट इन विच स्टेट? राखिन स्टेट, है ना. सितवे भी कौन से स्टेट में है? राखिन स्टेट. तो ये राखिन स्टेट के पोर्ट्स है जिनको ये कनेक्ट करेंगे टू कुनमिंग और यूनान प्रोविंस इन, है ना, कुनमिंग इन यूनान प्रोविंस चाइना. अच्छा, विथ रेस्पेक्ट टू म्यांमार, फ्री मूवमेंट regime हैज़ बीन इन न्यूज़. यस, व्हाट इज दिस फ्री मूवमेंट regime? Up till 16 kilometers for 14 days. for 14 days. Yes, it was introduced only in 2017, but now it has been suspended because of the instability in Myanmar. क्या है free movement regime? Basically, Indian and Myanmarese nationals without any passport or visa can cross onto the other side up till 16 kilometers and stay there visa free for 14 days. Yes, so this was to facilitate employment and cross-border cultural connect, but it has been suspended. Myanmar के context में you can also know the Panglong agreement. Yes, which was signed in 1947 between Aung San Suu Kyi and the ethnic minorities of Myanmar. Yes, Myanmar ka, if you look, if this is Myanmar, center portion of Myanmar is Burma proper, which is inhabited by Buddhist majority है ना, Burmese people live here, and ये frontier region is inhabited by ethnic minorities. So it was through this Panglong agreement that the unified country of Myanmar was established. Yes, so 1948 Myanmar was to gain independence from Britishers, but there was no agreement कि एक unified country की तरह emerge होगी या नहीं. So this unified country was ensured through Panglong agreement. Yes. Yes.
मैम फ्री मूवमेंट रिजीम में पूरी कंट्री के नेशनल्स कर सकते हैं बॉर्डरिंग स्टेट्स की?
बॉर्डरिंग देखो एथनिक माइनॉरिटीज ही करेंगी. लेट मी ऑल्सो चेक वंस. आई थिंक सो सभी कर सकते हैं, बट जनरली वही करते थे, है ना. इट वॉज टू फैसिलिटेट लोकल ट्रेड along the borders, and because these ethnic minorities have been divided through these artificial borders between India and Myanmar, to foster that. But let me see if people from all over India could, or people from all over Myanmar could cross over. But I think so that was a possibility. Let me but still check. I'll confirm it tomorrow. Fine. Then is BRICS. BRICS is once again a very, very important organization, and the last summit of BRICS, 5 new members, actually 6 new members were admitted, but Argentina has decided to withdraw its membership. Yes, so presently.
Ma'am, should we really be worried about the anticipated increased level of difficulty which UPSC might?
See, is there any point? He is asking, should we worry about the increase in difficulty of the questions that UPSC might ask? But see, there is no point worrying. है ना, हम क्या कर सकते हैं, हमारे हाथ में तो है नहीं. So what we can do is, it is a competitive exam, so we just need to get better score than our competitors. Yes, so you need to prepare, at least prepare all that everybody else is preparing. You should not miss out on questions which could have been easily attempted. And if the difficulty level increases, it will increase for all. So automatically the cutoff will fall. So that is not something we should ponder upon, but what you should be worried and what you should be preparing for actually is the kind of questions that they have asked last year. Yes, the kind of questions that should not happen, that you go unprepared for the type of questions like statement A is the correct explanation of B, B is the correct explanation of A. Yes, those type of questions, because previously until 2011 that was a regular pattern in which UPSC would ask at least 4 to 5 questions. Over the past 10, 12, 14 years they had suspended this nature of question. But if they have gone back to that, you need to be more aware, है ना. और उसमें क्या है, वही एक conceptual clarity becomes very very important, because both statements might be correct, but are they the correct explanation of one another, and which leads to the other. Yes, so both statements might be interrelated, but is A the correct explanation of B or B the correct explanation of A? Yes, so that is what. So what we know, we should be well prepared with. Rest we cannot really know what UPSC is going to do. They are known to change the pattern. They are known, it is not like other exams where fixed number of questions from fixed topics would be asked. So nothing, everything is unknown, except this is some pattern and this is what we all prepare and go in the exam. Fine. So anyways, BRICS. Should we take up BRICS? ठीक है. Fine, we will take up the remaining regional organizations in the tomorrow's class, and we will proceed as per the material. So next, I think so important places and news is there, so we'll take that up. Fine, that would be it for today then. Thank you.